on behalf of the Pasteur Institute. He was looking for the best medium to use for the polio vaccine. In his comparative study of all African monkeys, chimpanzees topped the list. The chimp, always the chimp, genetically so close to humans. Were they used to create the vaccine given to 1 million African people? Many of the Camp Lindy scientists deny that chimps were used to make the polio vaccine. But Pierre Dupang is not so sure. He was in charge of laboratory testing at the time.
C'est évident que le chimpanzé est intervenu dans la composition du vaccin de polio, mais à quel stade, à quel niveau, moi je n'en sais rien. Je ne vois pas pourquoi on aurait fait tant d'histoires que ça avec les chimpanzés, si ça n'avait pas été pour s'en servir pour avoir un but scientifique en fait. Mais c'était avant tout un but scientifique pour le. Non, j'ai plus rien à dire. Je vais pas rester comme ça. Tu parlais de toi-même.
Two months after our meeting, Edward Hooper saw Dupang, and during this recorded conversation, he says a bit more.
Of making the culture.
The culture was sterile. And I put the culture sterile. I was sterile to Anida. I don't know to do what I don't know.
Let me ask you one last thing, Pierre, before I go. How many times then would you say that you were making the sterile tissue culture from chimps for Australia?
A long time.
A long time. Right.
Dupang sheds light on the true situation at the time, and it makes sense that the polio vaccine would have been made locally for the vaccination campaigns in Africa.
And what I discovered was that routinely, all the people who were making oral polio vaccine used one particular method. They didn't send gallons of their vaccine overseas. That would have been logistically a very, very difficult process. They sent a small amount. They sent typically one flask of maybe 100 cc of vaccine, and each of those polio vaccine makers had another laboratory, the laboratory near to where the vaccination was taking place, grow the vaccine up in locally available tissue culture. So Albert Sabin sent his vaccine to places like Hungary and the Soviet Union in 1957, and it was grown up locally in laboratories in Budapest, in Moscow, in Leningrad, and so forth. From Paris, Pierre Lepine from the Pasteur Institute, he sent his vaccines out to places such as Brazzaville, in Congo-Brazzaville. It was then in French Equatorial Africa, and there again, apparently, they grew up the vaccine virus in the locally available tissue culture. There, the commonest monkey was Cercopithecus nictitans. So basically, although there was great control being exerted about how they developed the vaccine itself, how they attenuated the vaccine, they then grew it up in what was effectively locally available tissue. Now, they did their best, I'm sure, to make sure that monkeys, primates were used which were healthy, which didn't appear to be sick, but there was no final check made as to the material that was being fed to human beings. It was assumed that this stuff, the cells from the locally available primate, was going to be safe.